Hey, welcome everybody. My name is Mike Acord here at Susquehanna Fishing Tackle. Man, it's the fall. And the fall swing is happening right now. We're right into it, full swing. And one of the things that happens in the fall is shad and the bass eating on the shad. The migration of shad starts to happen. They're moving back into creeks. They're rolling down the rivers. And the bass are just keying in on them. They're getting ready for winter, so they are jumping on these shad, they're following them around, they're busting on them, they're eating them, they're getting fat for the winter. So no better way to imitate a shad bite in the fall is a bait that kind of lost some tread a little bit. I don't think people are throwing it near as much as they should, as they used to, but that's the rattle trap. Perfect bait for shad imitation. And there's a few things that we're going to talk about today that'll show you some different ways to fish it and some different ways to rig it and some different shapes and sizes for matching the hatch of the shad. It's funny because we look at shad and we all say, oh, shad are, you know, all that size. Well, this time of year, I don't know what's going on, but there's big shad, there's medium-sized shad, and then there's even some really small shad. The other day we were out, we saw little bitty small shad that are out there. So that's like a really late spawn that happened. And those bait fish are out there. So you have all different types of shad out there. And it's important to kind of match the hatch a little bit. But what is the bait? It's a rattle trap. And by that, I mean, it does exactly that. It's a really loud kind of BBs or pellets or different types of material inside the bait that give it different sounds. Gives it a lot of ring, gives it a lot of noise in the water, and it attracts the bait fish or the bass that way. So what has evolved over the years, one of the original ones that started the whole thing was the original rattle trap. And you can see here's an old one that I've had in our boxes for years. And this is just the original rattle trap, kind of a thin bait. And that one, a little bit quieter, but much more tinnier, kind of a rattle. So there's all different noises and sounds and different alloys and metals are used inside these things to get all these different rings. So that's one of the things that you want to look at when you're choosing these baits. The sound is, like I said, the original sound was one with a lot of BBs in it. This is the original sound. And then they've even gone to some tungsten, which is a much deeper kind of noise to it. And then even a two-tap system, which is, instead of a lot of BBs, there's only one in there. All these sounds are something that you want to kind of consider too while you're fishing the rattle trap. So there is a million of them on the market. There's so many shapes and sizes out there from the original rattle trap. But some of our favorites are Spro line of baits right here has become one of our favorite baits. It's got a really great shape to it. It's got a really great sound to it. It goes through the water in a different way that you can fish it many different ways. So this has kind of become our kind of go-to bait that we throw a lot of. Now the other bait that we're really getting into is and this is called the TN70 from Jackal. And that bait is just a little bit smaller. You can see the size difference. It's not quite as fat. It's not quite as long. It's just a little bit different there in the size. So this is a bait that's pretty cool. And another really good thing about it is it noses down real good, and it kind of runs through the water with a nose down look. Gives a little bit different profile. So that's important for maybe a different size shad. And it's funny that, you know, even these little small subtle differences will make a change in your bite. It's something that's pretty critical. And then even old school, this is one that it's not even made anymore, but you can see it's a smaller, even 1/4 ounce size bait that is even smaller yet to even represent those real little bitty shad that I was telling you about with the different sizes that are out there right now. So that's one of them that we throw. The 1/4 ounce size in the rattle traps are very good. The 1/4 ounce size in these are really good. They're just smaller size baits of the same baits. And all these companies make the 3/4 ounce, which is a much bigger bait. The 1/2 ounce was a little bit smaller, and then even the small little 1/4 ounce. And it gives you all those shapes that you really want. All the way up to a 1 ounce size, which is, you know, a real big one. And I have guys that fish that one late in the year when the big bite is out there, maybe even early winter, they'll throw a 3/4 ounce bait and yo-yo it in deep water for those big largemouth. So size really does matter in this case because you're matching the hatch, and it's very important to be able to do that. As you can see, this is my box here. There's a million baits in there, but there's not a lot of different colors. Let's talk about color a little bit. The colors, again, we're really representing shad. So you're really gonna stick with your shad kind of colors. You have all your baits. So you got chromes, you got your chrome colors, and you got your whites. Like here's a red eye shad in the famous 590 color, which is sexy shad. And you can see that's a real good shad imitation. And then you have some baits with a little bit of gold on it, but more of a shad imitator. So that's the main focus that we're doing is your, with your color is representing that flash of a shad. So a lot of times you're gonna be throwing those flashier colors or your more natural colors. However, this bait works great in dirty water. It's a fantastic dirty water bait. In the fall, you do get some rainstorms and you do have some muddy water. So it's very important to have your dirty water colors, which are these reds. There's a million reds out there. There's more darker reds, and then there's even brighter reds into orange. Very important for dirty water. You gotta have some of these in your box. It's very important to have them in there. You have a stained water, you even have a muddy water. These fish will still eat these because they're finding them with the sound, and that flash is a natural flash in that dirty water color. It's a dulled out flash that sticks out a little bit, gives them a little bit more of a natural flash in that dirty water. That's quite frankly the reason I think red works, is it's more of a natural flash in that dirty water. But you'd be surprised how many times you'll be going along and the water is dirty and you're not really getting bites, and you move into a red and you're throwing it, you're not really getting bites, and you move into maybe something even brighter, into that orange, and then all of a sudden you start getting bit, and it just changes your whole day. So color is very important. There's a million of them out there. The Strike Kings, the Spros, everybody has a good red color. They call it all different, something different. Red Craws, Rayburn Reds is a famous one that's out there. Matter of fact, this is the Rayburn Red right here. That's your Rayburn Red, has a little bit of gold in it. So that's a real famous red color that's been out there for many, many years. So now we talked about sound, and also maybe even the lack of sound. Here's one that doesn't even shake. It's a silent version, and there's a few companies that are making silent versions of the rattle trap. And really all it is at that point is a vibration bait. It's just putting out vibration. So doesn't need the noise of the rattles to send off shockwaves through the water, because it's just still really tight, wobbling through the water, and attraction by the vibration itself displacing the water. So when do you want to throw silent? I think silent would be more for the real pressured fish, when everybody's throwing a rattle trap and everybody's bombing the ones with the rattles. Hey man, it's neat to sneak up behind them, come in with something that's a lot more subtle. Pressured fish like a silent trap, and I think that's where the guys do really well with the silent. So keep that in mind also. So we talked about our sound, we talked about our shapes, the different sizes that you want to mess around with for the shad imitations. I think the next thing that you really want to look at is the presentation. The best presentation out there, burning it out there, chucking and winding it back. I mean, you're probably going to get more bites and cover more water just by chucking it out and winding. It's a great bait for chucking and winding, covering a lot of water. You can mess with your speed with that, and you can mess with your baits to slow down. We found that the red eye shad bait is one you can throw and reel a little bit slower and still maintain your depth real nice and control your depth without sinking too fast and getting into the vegetation or getting into the rocks or whatever cover you're fishing. The red eye shad seems to be one you can fish. It draws through the water a little bit harder, has a little different shape to it. I think that front part really kind of gives it lift to it. As you can see right here, it's a little flatter and wider in the front. Just by design, it wants to lift a little bit. So it's a great bait to to fish a little slower. I think the fastest one that you can burn through the water is the original rattle trap. The original rattle trap, which has a ton of beads in it, This one here is real trim, slim down, inline. It's real narrow. And this one here is a great burning bait. You can throw it just back real fast. It's probably one of the better ones for high speed retrieve, at least in my book. That's when I use that one. And then, your all around ones is the Spro, a Ruku shad. It's kind of wide in the nose, but it's not quite as long in here. So it doesn't have as much lifting to it. So you can mess with the speed. You can fish it fast or you can fish it slow. So that straight retrieve is probably one of your best retrieves. But the yo-yo retrieve is, and that's one that we fish a lot in the fall, later in the fall when the waters are dipping in that low 50s and even into the high 40s. We like to really yo-yo a trap, and that's when you're throwing it out and you're just, buzzing it up, maybe two foot off the bottom, and then just holding your rod and letting it fall and contacting the bottom again, and you're just picking up and you're letting it fall, contact the bottom and picking it up, letting it fall and contact the bottom. That yo-yo effect of that trap going up and then fluttering down like that is absolutely deadly. It's really hard to do because you're hitting the bottom, so you have the ability to get hung up a lot. But there is some baits that do that better. There's baits that are really nose heavy, and one of the best ones out there is the Jackal TN70. This bait right here really noses down when it falls. And it even has like a little weighted skid plate on the lip right here that kind of pulls the nose down when it falls. And when it hits the bottom, the hooks don't seem to hang up quite as much as if they were coming down more level like this and hitting the bottom and coming up like that. This one noses down real good, hits the bottom, pops back up, and then noses down real good again. So you get a really good fall without getting hung up in the rocks or the cover that you're fishing. So this is a really good yo-yoing bait. I find that the Spro Aruku shad is a great yo-yo bait because just holding it in my hand, I can feel the nose wanting to pull down. And that's exactly what it does. It pulls down and falls pretty similar to the TN70 by Jackal. So the Aruku is a great yo-yoing bait also that you can put in your box and use for that technique. I don't recommend it with the rattle trap. Seems to fall real level and you hang up. This is more of a faster retrieving one, so stick with that for that. One by Strike King here, the red eye shad, it does work pretty decent for that, but I still think it's a straight retrieve, but a slower retrieve. So use this one for your more slower retrieves over top of vegetation, around cover. It's really, really good for that. You can control the depth very easily. So you have that straight retrieve where you have different speeds that you use for whatever the mood of the fish and the mood of the shad. If the shad are high, flicking on the surface, or if they're a little bit deeper, or if they're real deep, you can mess with your speed to get in the column in which you need to be in for that particular day. So you got the baits to do that with now. You got all the different kinds, and that's why I don't think you can go out with just one style of bait. I think you have to really, as you can see, I have a bunch of them here. I have the Jackals, I have the Yozuri style baits that do real well, have a really unique shape to them. We do really well with those. The 6th Sense Quake is another one of those baits I think that goes through the water and you can control the depth very easily. This is the Quake 70. Plus the 6th Sense has really good bluegill colors and really some unique colors that you can use also. So I think it's really hard to have a rattle trap box that has one or two styles in it. I don't think you can do that. I think you have to have a very large array of styles and shapes to match the hatch, especially in the fall when the fish are really keying in on those shad. I think it's, whatever size shad, you got to really match the hatch with that. And it's important to have a whole bunch of different ones. Dirty water, another dirty water color gold with black back. That's a good one. I have a whole tray right here full of just gold black that we fish in dirty water. So as you can see, that's important. There's some premium ones like the Lucky Craft LV 500. Nice quality bait, does kind of a little bit of everything, runs through the water real well. It's just a premium bait with premium hooks and everything on the bait. That's kind of the baits in itself. The other thing about fishing a rattle trap is the hooks. It is super, super, super important to have your hooks sharp, ultra sharp all the time. So very important that while you're fishing your bait, you're always checking your hooks, especially if you're yo-yoing where you're hitting the bottom a lot, or you're slow rolling a rattle trap where you're contacting the cover a lot, especially rocks. Very important to have hooks sharp at all times. Back in the day when rattle trap first came out, they were the crummy hooks. I mean, I'm talking 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The rattle trap hooks were horrible, and they were notoriously horrible, and everybody knew it. So when you bought a rattle trap, you took the hooks off and you changed your hooks out right away, because there was just no way to fish those hooks. You would just lose too many fish. Fast forward to 2020, 2021, going into 2022, a lot of these companies are putting premium grade hooks on these baits right out of the box. The Spro baits right here is owned by Gamakatsu, so on all your Spros, they come through with Gamakatsu hooks, which is a premium grade, super sharp, super sticky hook right out of the box. Don't even have to do anything to it. But even Rattle Trap, they stepped it up big time. They're putting a much better hook on there. I'm not sure, it's a Mustad triple grip. They're coming through with Mustad triple grips on here, which I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. Awesome, must have, got to have them. And you have Booyah, they have great triple grip hooks on theirs. You got, everybody's just putting a high quality hook on their baits right now, and it's less of a chore to get your baits ready to go. You don't have to change your hooks out right away. The changing you want to do is, and you're hearing about these guys that are upsizing their hooks, you got to be really careful with that. Most of these baits are coming through with a 4 on the front and a 6 in the back, or 2 number 4s, depending on the size of the bait. They'll put 2 number 4s on them. If you want to upsize your hooks on some of these baits, you can do so, but you have to use a treble hook that has a short shank. So Gamakatsu has the Magic Eye short shank treble hook, which is a really good treble hook that you can take a number 6 and go to a number 4 and have 2 number 4s on that bait without the hooks hooking together. It becomes a pain in the neck when you're casting and you reel all the way back your cast and you realize that was a wasted cast because the hooks were hooked together, and if you would have got bit, you could have had a problem there. So this doesn't eliminate it, but it really reduces the amount of hook-to-hook problems that you get by oversizing your hooks. So make sure you go with a short shank. You can see I got them in 4s and 6s. This is 2 sizes you got to have in your box. You got to have 4s, you got to have 6s to replace out. Make sure you have them with you at all times, but if you want to go to 2 number 4s, you can definitely do that with a short shank Gamakatsu. Another really good short shank is the Mustad Ultra Point Triple Grip. Now this is the one KBD uses on all his, and he'll even go to a 2 and a 4. He'll put a 2 on the front of his bait in tournament situations and a 4 on the back, or 2 number 4s, but he's always upsizing the hook to make sure he's going to get a good bite on his fish. Because it's a crankbait and because it's a chucking and winding type of thing, you're really going to have a lot of lost fish on your day, because it's just the nature of the beast. You're reeling it real fast, they're swiping at it, there's a lot of stuff going on, there's a lot of commotion, there's a lot of competition, the fish are schooling, they're swiping, they're slashing, man, there's all kinds of things going on. So you're definitely going to have fish that you're going to lose. So we want to eliminate that as much as possible, and by that it's upsizing hooks, sharpening your hooks, making sure your hooks are sharp on there, and that should reduce that quite a bit for you. That's really, really important. Some of the other things that are pretty cool that are coming out is these hooks, like hybrid hooks that have little blades on them. And this just adds a little bit more flash, a little bit more glitz, a little bit more glamour. There's guys putting this on in the back hook. There's guys putting it on the belly hook. There's guys putting them on both of them. It just adds a little bit more flash, a little bit more glitzy to it to attract those fish. Because there's so many shad flicking around, this could just be the difference that it takes to get those fish to bite your bait. So this is a really cool setup here that you can do. And then the other one that you can see right here is putting red hooks on. This is an old school one right here. This one, I can't even tell you how old this is. It's probably 20 years old. Bill Lewis rattle trap right here. Probably caught, I don't even know how many fish it caught, but you can see it's worked over pretty well. But you can see we went to number 4 in the front here, and it does still have a number 6 in the back, but these are Gamakatsu, changed out Gamakatsu red hooks. So there's a lot of guys that talk about red hooks, and this is a trying to get those fish to come up and get it from this angle. The red hooks help a little bit better to get up towards the front. Some people will use them just for the center hook. And on the center hook, they'll put the red up on the center to try to get them to get more of the hooks in them. So there's a lot of things you can do with red hooks to attract the fish, number one, but to get them to hit more of the bait to get more treble hooks in them. So that's something you might want to mess with, and then we recommend it. And they come in also in all the hook sizes, but they, Mustad and Gamakatsu come with a red hook in the short shank that you can mess with. I'm not going to get into rods and reels as much right now because that's a whole nother 30 minutes, but we'll talk about that at another time. I wanted to get into the baits today. I wanted you to see how important size is, matching the hatch, how important color is, to match the watercolors and clarities, and the importance of your retrieve, your straight direct retrieve in different speeds, fast, medium, slow. And then also the yo-yo for the little bit colder water, dropping them on your head, getting that nice little in your face kind of technique, which is great. And I recommend you guys get involved with that. And then just setting it up with the proper hooks and sharp hooks so you catch more fish. And I hope this helps you out. I appreciate you for stopping by and listening. Get out there and let's shake them up a little. Thanks for stopping.